Everything happened overnight. This was perhaps one of the greatest destructions humanity has ever seen. A whole city disappeared as if it never existed, so much so that its mystery has persisted until today. Will research and found evidence bring this lost city to light? Atlantis. Let's take a trip to ancient Greece time together. The story begins with the notes that the Greek statesman and poet Solon delivered to Plato. According to Solon's notes, the history of Atlantis began on the day the world came into existence. Immortal gods on earth divided the earth among themselves. Poseidon chose Atlantis as his center. Mortal to a god, he chose Cleito as his wife and formed the Atlantean royal family with her. Poseidon built Cleito's house on a high hill in the middle of the island, and the house overlooked a fertile plain surrounded by the sea. Poseidon built 5 very large layers of water and earth to protect his beautiful wife. Although the story of Atlantis started like this, the main reason why it came to this day is the information given by Plato about Atlantis. Plato wrote about Atlantis around 360 BC. He mentioned Atlantis in short sections in his works such as Timaeus and Critias and gave detailed information about this place. Plato speaks of Atlantis as an island, an advanced and intelligent civilization surrounded by ditches of earth and water. The city was divided into sections, first land, then water, then land again, and was built on an island with only one entrance and exit. These depictions are the only thing we can get of Atlantis because the most distinctive feature of Atlantis is only these depictions. In the light of this information, researchers started to search for Atlantis all over the world, but some of them set out with such utopian thoughts that they started to search for Atlantis around America and even inside. Atlanteans are thought to have lived in 9500 BC, and the history of America is not even close to that. Considering that even the oldest known structure in America was built between 1000 and 1700 CE, there is not even a possibility that Atlantis was in or around America. Thinking more realistically, we need to go back to the ancient peoples who lived in the Neolithic times in areas called Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia and its environs, the first settlements, is the place we must search to find Atlantis, which is thought to exist. Plato actually gives us a clue about the location of Atlantis in his book called Timaeus. The island of Atlantis was a magnificent kingdom that ruled a large area from Egypt to Etruria. After this information, the idea that this whole area is Atlantis should not arise because it is mentioned that only Atlantis Island governs these areas. Also, Plato mentions Atlantis as an island beyond the statues of Hercules. With this information given by Plato and the information that the settled life in that period was in Mesopotamia and its surroundings, the area we need to search becomes too small. First of all, we start to search for this place on the Earth's surface or in the sea by making use of satellites. What we should be looking for is structures that are nested but not natural, that is, man-made rings. The Atlantic Ocean. This is known as the first map of Atlantis, published in 1665. Don't be surprised if America is on the right side of the map because the map is drawn with the north at the bottom. We see the location of Atlantis on the map, but we see that there are no intertwined lines drawn at the size of the continent. Believing the accuracy of this information, we will take a look around the Strait of Gibraltar, which is believed to be the place where the statues of Hercules are located. Here is a place that caught my eye, apart from the other things I will show you. This is exactly the point I'm pointing. As I mentioned before, Atlantis had only one exit point. If you pay attention, this bottleneck is as if it shows the only exit point of Atlantis. You can understand better if I reflect the drawing here. Moreover, James Churchward's drawings of Atlantis are also shown larger than this, but in the same position. Could Atlantis really be here? The city was devastated and destroyed overnight. How did this gigantic island, which is about 1,600 kilometers long, disappeared and fell underwater? The second place we will look at is a much smaller region compared to this one, northwest of Africa, where people's ancestors lived. Ricat structure, known as the Eye of Africa, bears many aspects similar to the city of Atlantis. Intertwined rings, especially noticeable. As in Atlantis, there is only one exit point here, and this road goes all the way to the sea, and also the area is on a dry land. The closest settlement around it is located at a very distant point, just like Atlantis. A similar building caught my eye in the immediate vicinity of this area, as if a small village had been established there as well. Interestingly, this place is shown as Atlantis on some maps, while even the moons have not been discovered yet. Could the city of Atlantis really be here or under this place? The region thought to be another Atlantis has just been discovered recently. This is a point 620 miles from the West African coast near the Canary Islands. These shapes, seen in a certain area as if they were made by human hands, clearly belong to an unnatural structure. Dr. Charles Arcel stated that this is where Plato described it. This could have been in another part of the world, but exactly where it was described. Finally, if we go back to the notes Plato took in Timos, we can find some really interesting notes. Atlantis was a very large oceanic island. The people of Atlantis were a very brave and heroic people. They established great dominance over Africa and Europe. Once the kings of Atlantis went to war with a large army to enslave peoples outside their own country. From this we can actually say that the people of Atlantis were warlike and greedy. Afterwards, the earthquake and floods caused Atlantis to collapse overnight. According to the belief, the Atlantean society, which decayed morally over time, was punished by God when it started to abuse its power and was buried in deep waters and disappeared. That's why until this time Atlantis became an inaccessible place. Or was Solon influenced by Noah's flood and wanted to gain fame by inventing a new and unheard story for people and made up this whole Atlantis story? Do you think Atlantis is really a made-up place, or did it really go underwater?